I could be an ASMR channel. Anyways, hello. Welcome to my channel, where you get me and books. I just realized I don't have my shit organized. Give me a second. Basically, hello. Welcome to my channel where you get me plus books. Essentially, this channel is like, it was a part of my reading challenge for this year. And basically, what I do with this channel is just document what I read and talk about the things I read. And hopefully people will find what I am saying interesting. If not, well, this is mostly for me anyways. So, love y'all. If you stay around and if you think my thoughts are intriguing, I appreciate that. Do not mind my fucking like Matrix hacker gloves. My hands are hurting. I do crochet a lot, and this is how I cope with the pain. So ignore that I look goofy. Anyways, as I was saying, I do this as part of my reading challenge for the year. I know I'm starting super duper late, but I had a really heavy college semester this year, and that is kind of why I am late on doing this. However, I am excited to kind of get started and get into things. I know that I look like a streamer. I did actually used to stream, but that aside, this is kind of my setup. I don't have a fancy recording setup. So you kind of just get me, my gamer microphone, and this webcam. So I hope that we can get past the poverty setup and get into the literature. So for this month, I read a lot of manga. I did a lot of I had a mostly writing heavy semester and a jarring amount of exams this semester. So a lot of the stuff I read was mostly manga too. One, because the fact that I was dumb and didn't realize, oh wow, if I did want to sit down and watch an anime, because I can kind of struggle with committing to sitting and watching something at times, depending on how good it is. I did recently watch A Side of Affection. I would sell my kidney to watch that anime again for the first time. I loved that anime so much. It was so cute. It was so good. I harassed my fiance into wearing it with me. It was peak for me, guys. Deeply recommend. Brain rot terms aside, I read a lot of manga because I think it was easier on my brain. It allowed for escapism more, and if I really needed to put, at times reading can become labor for me in the sense of I have to read, like over 20-30 books, it feels like a semester, and it can be really hard on me, especially when I'm also doing research for papers. So I chose to read a lot of manga because one, it's easier for me to commit to. I can read pretty quickly. I can read usually like one manga in like an hour, and I could go about my day and la-da and feel accomplished. And in this case, a lot of it was just genuinely fun to read. It was genuinely really good entertaining. It helped me get over a reading slump that I had been in for a while, so I really appreciated kind of getting into it, and I feel like I'm doing a lot of this, casting a spell on y'all. Anyways, the first manga that I read was volumes, I have them right here, volumes 1 and 2 of Dungeon Meshi, and I gave both of them 5 stars, and basically, give y'all a snazzy small synopsis. It's Laios and they're kind of like a D&D party to me in a lot of ways, but it's Laios and his party. They were fighting a red dragon. They had more members of their party. They have, for their own reasons, disappeared. I'm not sure if they are dead. They might be. My brain is very forgetful. But basically, his sister got swallowed by a red dragon. And they're starving and broke, which, understandable and relatable. And they basically have only one solution to get her back, which, to get her back and to be able to overcome kind of like their time constraint, is that they have to go in the dungeon and eat as they go, and eat a bunch of dungeon food. And obviously, Marcel hates this. As any suggestion that Laios gives her, she hated that shit. I'm gonna get definitely not copyright striked. I'm gonna get demonetized, as if I could get monetized in the first place. But YouTube is not gonna like that I cuss. But I fear I cannot help it, friends. But basically, that is how they meet. Senshi, who is their last member of their group to join, and basically they're going down into the dungeons to get Fallen, and he joins because he wants to cook the red dragon. He wants to eat it. And I do remember him being like, how should I cook it? Honestly, I believe he said steak was a version of cooking it. I would be intrigued to taste dragon for myself. But one of the main reasons why I gave this such a super high rating for me is because I play a lot of D&D. This is very reminiscent of D&D to me. It's very fun. It's very creative. I really like how I'm going to butcher the word. The mangaka did, I believe her name was Ryoko Kui. I read a lot of things, and I don't typically remember authors, I remember titles. but I believe her name was Ryoko Kui. But I love her creatures. I love her world building. I love how creative she is with just making. Okay, basically, if you're a writer who does essentially weird shit, I will read what you write. And I love how she just committed to the bit in the sense of fantasy. My favorite monster out of all the volumes is definitely still the treasure bugs. They are so unique to me. I have never really thought of anything like that, because there's definitely some classics in there. Like I said, red dragons are super D&D classic. Mimics are super classic. Especially things like golems she had in there too. And I just love like the really, really unique ones. Like, so I don't want to spoil horrifically, but the way the treasure bugs were a highlight for me. And I love how creative she was with the food. The food looks delicious. Do not read this hungry, because some of the pictures of the food in there, I was like, seeing them in color on screen was wicked for me. I was so hungry afterwards. And I just really liked them. I thought that they were super, super duper cute. And definitely something I could really get behind in terms of, I don't know, it was really my introduction into manga. And I love Marcel. She's one of my favorite characters. I do love my autistic man, Laios. But after that, I moved on. I have all these in physical. I'm a physical copy reader, so that's what we have. I have the book, The History of the American Bookshop by Evan Friss. I hope I'm not mispronouncing his last name. I'm pronouncing it the way I see the letters. But I gave this book kind of 4 stars. I'm not going to, synopsis this book a lot, because, I mean, the title tells you what it talks about. But one of my favorite things about this was definitely going into these specialty bookshops and talking about things kind of in stages of American history. Because obviously, you get the Ben Franklin stuff and how bookshops started and all that good stuff, which is really interesting. And I think it's important to literary history that we talk about things like that. But I loved learning about just the way that culture interacts them. Like, I loved these sidewalk bookstores. I loved how people really were drawn to community aspects of bookstores, how the organization of the bookstore often brought people in, because they do talk about, the superstore. So, as we get farther on, they talk about Amazon, they talk about Barnes & Nobles is brought up. And when we think, at least when I think of Barnes & Nobles, it's a very structured store. So the importance of having a cluttered store seems to be pretty significant in the history of the bookshop. And I always found that super, super interesting, because I don't know, I've just never considered that. But in a way, it is true. I do think we are drawn to spaces that make us feel like we are at home and that have kind of a personality to them. I think that's definitely what makes a lot. Sorry, I just cracked the frick out of my knuckles. That's what I think people get drawn to a lot, especially with independent bookstores and ones that are smaller. Because in the ones, my local bookstores, the first one I could think of, it has something unique about it that always makes me come back to it, other than the fact that they have book-themed drinks in their cafe. Always love that. But I kind of love that we explore what makes a bookstore shine and what makes us so drawn to having them. Other than that, there are definitely some specialty ones that shocked the fuck out of me, specifically the Nazi bookstore. I was not expecting that, but it didn't surprise me that it existed. I don't know, man. I'm not condoning arson. However, anyways, that was that. I followed up that work of academia up with Apothecary Diaries. I have volumes 1 and 2. I love, by the way, just the cover of this one is so gorgeous. I think it is so pretty. I love the way, green and, here, so I think it's more noticeable on this one. The green and the purple on her looks so nice. I think it complements her skin color. Her skin tone. Much more. I don't know why the fuck I said skin color. That felt weird. Please don't beat me in the comments for saying that. But I think it really complements her skin tone. I think she looks very pretty in those colors. I will quickly synopsize this and kind of get... Oh, did I talk about the book? I gave Evan Friss's book 4 stars, by the way. I'm a ranter, so we might go like this in conversations. But anyways, to keep us on track and talk about Apothecary Diaries. I'll give a quick synopsis. Basically, it is this character, Mao Mao. She is sold into servitude at the, I think they call it the Back Palace. It's based on, what the I'm so sorry, my brain just... Alright, and so my fiance is screeching. I hope to God that makes it in the recording so I can bully him about it. Anyways, it's based off of like dynasty era kind of China. It has a lot of the feel, I guess, to it. I don't know. Feel is not the appropriate term. Basically, that is what it's set in. So the clothes, the culture, the social expectations, that's all very much in place. I have no idea why all of my intelligent thought has just vaporized the moment I start talking about this specific little series I'm reading. I apologize. Basically, she gets sold and she gets discovered in her time there that she has the talents as an apothecary and talents with medicine and kind of, I don't want to say alchemical stuff because that feels also very much way too into like D&D Pathfinder stuff, but that's basically what she's gifted in, is making medicines and things like that, and also making poisons. She's very obsessed with poisons. That is her fixation, and you do you, girl. But that, aside, I gave the first one 3 stars, and I gave the second one 4 stars, and that's because I felt like we upped the stakes in the second one significantly, and that's probably why I liked it more. But, please don't bully me, like I said in the comments, but I feel like this manga is just atrociously weak in a very specific way. Obviously, it is not bad enough to wound up in 1 or 2 star territory for me, because like I said, it was still very entertaining, but the narrative is at times extremely vague. They'll be like, here is a plot point, and then never explain it at all. Like, things just kind of, it does a bit of like this, and then like down, and then it's kind of, the pacing is off, and it's really noticeable, especially when you look at the anime. The anime does a lot better job with padding things, so it doesn't literally feel like a point A to B kind of story, because I hate stories like that. Because Mao Mao is very set personality-wise. I feel like her character journey is a little bit stunted in that regard. I'm sure as I read more, it's going to take off, and I'm going to retract that and, look back at myself and be like, you were stupid. Why did you say that? But a lot of this narrative is just very viscerally just vague. It's kind of just like, yeah, things kind of happen here or there. Or major plot points, like the dish being poisoned for, Li Shua, the minor, her dish being poisoned, that comes up very sporadically. It's something that's like, hey, here you go. It's like when they jangle the keys in front of toddlers to make sure you're paying attention. I do think that is kind of what happened there. And I don't know. I really like Mama's relationship with, oh my god. Like I said, I'm going to butcher these names, and I'm so fucking sorry. Mama's relationship with, Jinshi, I think, is how you say his name. I'm sorry. I like her relationship with him. I think that they're funny, and I think that they have a really compelling, relationship moving forward. I feel like I said relationship 4 times in a row, but that aside, I think that was very interesting, and I'm really curious to see how they kind of go forward. I could see a romance happening between them, but I would kind of be okay if they were just friends, because, I don't know, I like the way that Mao Mao is kind of approaching everything. I think it would be really interesting to kind of see her not in a relationship with him. However, I would not be against it. I'm always down to see people smooch on screen. That aside, I read Frieren next, and this one definitely probably wouldn't have gotten the rating that I gave it if I was not so deeply invested in the way that it talked about grief. I'm probably not going to synopsize this one very much either, especially the one after this too. In similar vein of the American history of the history of the American bookstop. I will not probably do that very extensively, because basically it's just Frieren retracing her original adventure from the perspective of having lost people. Sorry, my camera just glitched really badly. I'm sorry if that's been happening this whole time. I've been locked in to describing to you people what the hell I've been reading and what I think about it. I gave Frieren 4 stars, and I think what makes this story so compelling is the way that it talks about grief. Frieren is an elf. She struggles a lot with the realization that she has spent, a good portion, if not almost the entirety of her companions' lives, like, with them, but not knowing anything about them. I think that is something that a lot of people can relate to in a roundabout way, because I find, at least for me in my life, I'm always worried about having more time. You know, do I get to have enough time with my fiance? Do I get to have enough time with my friends? You know, is there really enough time in my entire lifespan to be able to achieve the dreams that I want? And I think that it's impressive on volume 1 for this manga to really raise those kinds of questions. And I really appreciated it. I thought that in a way it's kind of a little bit of a wake-up call, you know, that if you're going to spend time with people, you should connect with them. You shouldn't just kind of wear them as accessories. You shouldn't just bring them with you. People are very valuable. People come to us for very specific ways. And I thought that this manga did a really great job with exploring how hard it can be to kind of wake up and realize that you've been spending time with people that you don't even know. And I loved that part of this manga. I don't feel like it's for everyone. I can definitely see Frieren herself. She definitely is a bit bland at a lot of points when she is not experiencing sadness. I know that sounds awful, but I think the addition of Fern really helps balance out kind of the bland feeling of the narrative in that regard. In terms of tonal, like the experiencing the tone, because Frieren, homegirl just says what she wants to say and she doesn't care, and she's very blunt with how she wants to say things, and she's very scholarly and clinical about it. I think for a lot of people, they do not like that kind of narrative voice, because we're following our Frieren, we're in her head, and if you don't kind of jive with that, I can definitely see this not being a story for you. But I really like this one just for how it talks about grief. I think it was really compelling, and I recommend it. I'm really curious. I've heard that I really picked this one because I've heard the anime is just amazing, so I am very curious to see how that goes. Next thing that I read is a classic, is Sailor Moon. Like I said, this is gonna be mostly manga. This, as I said with Frieren, this is kind of a no notes one. I really enjoyed it because I just could turn my brain off. And I know that's probably not what a lot of people want to hear from their reviewers, who are supposed to think critically and academically about the things that they read. But I read this one because I was in the trenches. It was my life raft in the storm of academia. I was cripplingly nervous about everything at all times, because the thought of not graduating was basically like holding a gun to my head, and I was very scared. So Sailor Moon was kind of my life vest in that regard, and that I could just crack it open and la-di-da my way through my stress and hope to God that it would cure me, because when I closed it, I would have to face the reality that I had like 7 exams coming up, and that was not fun. So having this, it was my way out, my escapism for the moment. But it's very classic, it's very cute, very hero's journey-ish. It's very traditional in all of the ways that we kind of think of a very classic kind of fantasy. And I like that the cast is mostly women. I will say it. I enjoyed having, you know, those kind of girlish notes of romance here and there with, oh God. Oh, Jesus Christ. Hold on. I need to double check that I'm not butchering her name. Give me 1 second. Usagi? There is nothing on the back. I can't even double check. Sorry. I like the way that I'm going to say the main character because I don't know how to say her name correctly. But I do like her story, and I like how it's shaping out to be, because she is a very irresponsible girl, now in charge of an entire squadron of very overpowered women that can beat up aliens. And I really like it. I don't know. She got me through some troubling times, and I think that this is very cute. I don't know, it's kind of like rewatching childhood cartoons in that regard. Now, a very violent tonal shift. I read Nana. I might rant a little bit about this one, I fear. So, I gave this one, I believe I gave it 4 stars. I am not sure because I forgot to put it on my Goodreads account, so I cannot fact check myself. But I would probably say I would give this one 4 stars in the present moment that I am recording this on May 20th. I think that Nana is amazing. I really like it, but holy fuck does the first Nana, I think her name's Nana Komatsu, she pisses me off in a way that is, like, astounding. I'm going to table that for a moment because I'd like to talk about the positive things. So, basically, quick quick summary. It follows the story of two girls who have the same name, Nana Komatsu and Nana, I think her name is Nana Osaki. This one has, yes, it is. Because this one has a fucking synopsis on the back. This one liked me. But, anyways, Nana is a great snapshot, I feel like, of 2000s culture in the sense of the fashion is amazing. I loved looking at everyone's outfits. I loved June's outfits. I loved both of the Nana's outfits. I loved how it explored kind of the popularish fashion, like the, you know, the low-waisted stuff and the accessories, or like the t-shirt and not the t-shirt, like the dress kind of over jeans. I would have to really go back and like show pictures, which I will hopefully be doing while I'm editing this if I am smart and remember. But I love how it explored kind of trendy fashion and alt fashion. I'm sorry, I just shook you guys. I shook the camera really violently because I smacked. I have them stacked right here, so I smacked the shit out of them. My bad. Basically, what irritated me about Nana Komatsu so much is that she's just so fucking annoying. Basically, she's super annoying in the sense that all she thinks about is literally just men. Like, she has zero thoughts in her school that are not dating men. And yes, I hope that means that there's a lot of room for growth further on in the story, but however, that does not make it any less annoying, especially when you follow this up with Nana Osaki's story, where she has a lot of compelling stuff going on. She's not just a woman blindly stumbling through life searching for her next man to kiss, basically. Nana Osaki has basically the dreams of becoming like of Tokyo's like rock star. And I really like it. It's clear that she has talent. It's clear that she engages with her fans and that she has she basically has a future going for her. And I'm really curious to see how her story pans out because, you know, she kind of says F you to her man and she carries on with her life and she goes forward and she continues with her plans to reach her ambitions. While Nana Komatsu is kind of just like this the whole time and is just doing what everyone else wants. Like, in terms of everyone's like, oh, hey, I'm gonna go to Tokyo. I'm gonna go to this place and do this thing. And she's like, maybe I should do that. I'm like, maybe you should have a thought in your skull and do things that are not influenced by others. But alas, that did not happen. So now we are here. I thought that this had a really good plot, and I'm really curious as to what happens in the second volume. There is, like I said, this one sort of significantly lower stakes than like Free Rent or something like that. But I'm still hooked because I gotta know if either the Nanas become gay and they kiss, or if they reach their dreams. I just hope Nana Komatsu has thoughts for herself by the end of this manga, because if she doesn't, you're gonna be seeing me at night at a bridge, looking at the water. Definitely not motivated. I do not want to get banned for saying something like that. I should really think about the things that I say on YouTube. Anyways, I followed that up with my last 5-star read for this video is going to be, Princess Jellyfish. I really liked this one for a lot of reasons. I can't say a lot of my opinions without like horrifically spoiling it for you. So I will just kind of hone in on the aspects that I really liked about it and the one thing that I kind of disliked about it. But basically, it follows this girl named Tsukimi and her life in Tokyo and how she's kind of adjusting it. And she lives in a house basically with a lot of people who are have their own fixations, and kind of how she's experiencing life. She's very sheltered, she's very introverted, and she loves jellyfish. That's like her thing. That's she's really passionate about. And one night she goes to visit her favorite jellyfish. Her name is Clara, I believe, or Clara. Only to find out that Clara might die if we do not save her, and she gets the help of a very fashionable woman, and that kind of jumpstarts this adventure for her. That's kind of my synopsis for this. It might be trash, might be a little garbage, but I hope you guys can endure that. Basically, I gave it 5 stars because I like his commentary on culture. I like his commentary on class. I like his commentary on how it separates gender from fashion. I can't really build upon that, like I said, without spoiling. But I love the fashion in this one, similar to why I like Nana so much. I love the way it looks at fashion and the way it explores it from that point of view. What am I talking about? I'm going to beat up Kendall. That's the name of my fiance. Anyways, I think that the only part that I really hate is just the repetitive reliance on Amars being like your basic example of like neats. I don't know. There's having it present and using it as kind of a trope, I guess you could say, or having it be there to comment on, you know, personal growth and be like a foundation for how Tsukimi kind of overcomes similar ideologies. But it's just cringe. I'm just gonna say it outright. It's a little bit cringe. And I think that while cringe is freeing, it's beaten me up like every 4 pages. I think that we can bash people's heads in a little less in this manga and it would do really well. Because trust me, I've been in the trenches. I know the cringe and obsessive nature of fandom and things like that. I am well aware of how it works. I just don't think we should be relying it as a plot device as much as we are, because that definitely does weaken the overall plot going on here. So basically, I would argue that the A plot we have is more of kind of this romance that we're witnessing, while the B plot is basically everything else to do with the Mars, and I just simply do not care. I know that's bad, but there hasn't been enough introduction of backstory for a lot of the characters that are in a Mars for me to really care about them as people. I know that's atrocious, but I'm hoping in the next volumes that will kind of be remedied, because a lot of these series I'm definitely going to be continuing with, because I typically finish most series. It might take me longer depending on the length, because for example, like Sailor Moon probably has like 30 million books, and I am poor. I cannot afford all of those right now as much as I wish I could. If I was rich, there would be signs. I would be in a house, and behind me would be the biggest library you've ever seen. But no, I am in my lightly decorated beige jail cell. Essentially, what I'm trying to say is that I think this was good, but I do think that we need to start expanding. I don't know if this is just the style of how manga is made, but I feel like the first volume is just like all exposition, and there is just simply nothing left at the end. And so when I go into the second one, I'm like, what is the point of continuing on to the second one? That might just be me being stupid and not knowing what I want to talk about. But for some of these, they definitely are extremely exposition heavy, and then they occasionally, Princess Jellyfish does have one bit of a hook at the very end, and Dungeon Meshi did really well, and that they didn't beat you to death with exposition. But Frieren is pretty exposition heavy in my opinion. Apothecary Diaries is fair. Apothecary Diaries just has a lot of problems in how it wants to pace itself, but I find these can be a bit weak pacing-wise, and it does take them a while to build. So I'm hoping in the second volumes, a lot of these, we get to see them build up, and I can report back to you guys, basically, on whether or not I still like them, and whether or not I wish to fully continue. Like I said, I'm trying not to DNF as much, and trying to finish all the series before I talk shit about things on the internet. I can't always guarantee that will happen, though. There's only so much I can suffer. But we have come to kind of the end of things. This is my first video. I'm hoping that by the time I am really into the swing of things, I know what I want to talk about and how I want to run videos. But this is kind of the gist of how I want to do things. And yeah, thank y'all for sticking with me, and I hope to see y'all in the next video.